your money, oh my girl.
As Women's History Month draws to a close, we want to focus today's Money Watch on the gender pay gap. It's barely improved over the last 20 years. Just look at these numbers. In 2002, women earned on average 80% of what men earned. And in 2022, 20 years later, women still only earned 82% as much as men. It's even worse for women of color. Data research from the Pew Research Center show that black women earned 70% as much as white men in 2022, and Latina women earned 65% as much. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger joins us right now. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
All right. So more women graduate from college than men. Same goes for law school. And about half of medical school graduates are women. So why hasn't this gender gap improved?
Yeah, it's a curious combination of bad factors. At first, we were thinking maybe it's because women tend to dominate low-paying fields, make childcare, home health care. And then we started to look at other professions, and we found across many professions, most professions, if you compare men and women, men still make more money regardless of the profession. So that's really curious.
We're doing the same job.
We're doing the exact same job. Oh. So then there's one level deeper that I think is quite fascinating. It looks at parenthood. Now think about it. Women have the baby, they take themselves out of the labor force. Often when they come back in, they are earning less. Now let's look at a father. There is something that's called the fatherhood premium. A father who's in the workforce has presumably someone helping at home, tends to work more and longer than men who don't have children. So it's as if the men who have kids make more money than men without kids. Women who have kids make less money than anybody.
Yeah, the men aren't penalized for having children.
No, they're actually, it's a
Seems
premium.
like one is rewarded,
Yeah.
men, and then women, it's held against them.
Exactly right. And I think that there's a lot of implicit and explicit bias, but I think that there's this combination of factors that are playing here that are leaving this gap persistently wide.
Yeah, I mean, there's a story in the news right now with Sharon Stone, who says that she was paid $500,000 for Basic Instinct. Michael Douglas was paid $14 million. Now, listen, I know she says, like, I was new, he was a big star, but that still seems like a gross,
significant
that's
gap.
A significant difference.
Well, I'll tell you, in some sectors where it really is glaring is that we see a sector like nursing. A lot of nurses that field used to be dominated by women. Now more and more men have come in. Well, guess what? The men who come in seem to be making more than the women who've been there. So there is a gap, and it persists, and we have got to address them.
So we know what do we do? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we know this exists generally, but people are actually probably wondering where they work. Is this happening? They're looking at their coworkers and wondering if it's happening. I remember I worked at a magazine once, but for some reason, the printer started shooting out everybody's salary. It was like a big spreadsheet, and we all gathered around, and then we looked over at Barrett, and we were like, Barrett, you're doing about $20,000 better than everybody here. But should people just be talking about it more, not waiting for the printer error?
Well, I think that the transparency argument is really a good one. Now, remember, we have a lot of states that have started to say you've got to put a range out for the jobs that you're hiring for, right? And I think this is good news. Employers get really freaked out about this. They don't want to do it. There's pushback. It actually improves morale because it makes you feel like if the system is fair and I know what it is, I work harder. But when we talk about having transparency, I think a lot of it has to do with people talking with one another. This is very helpful for women to do. You go out and you say, okay, I'm Jill, I'm working at an organization, I want to talk to another friend, maybe not doing the exact same thing as me, but getting some guidance. What are you making? What are your conversations like? If this is completely oddball to you, Gayle, you and I are from a generation, we didn't talk about this.
No, I was raised not that it was very impolite to talk about.
And you didn't ask your coworker, what do you make? You do it more casually. I'm trying to find a way to increase my pay. What is the range that's here? How can I get this conversation going? Maybe going to a mentor, maybe to go someone else in the organization that's really been looking after you. It makes it so important because this kind of transparency leads to better outcomes. And by the way, the system can't just be where you're only talking to women. You've got to go across and talk to the other genders and find out who's there. Don't be protective. Oh, and by the way, many organizations frown on this. If you talk to many people in organizations, they'll say, my boss told me I was getting a raise, but I shouldn't tell anybody else.
It's the unwritten rules.
And by the way,
that happened too.
That is illegal. It is perfectly legal for everybody to share their information. Bosses and managers, please, you should encourage that because you want a fair system as well.
Super
Jill,
interesting.
you're the best.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you. We could talk all day about this topic.
Oh, yes.